Hey everybody, I'm Dan McClellan. I'm a scholar of the Bible and religion. Let's take a look at a video.
Okay, I have a question for Dr. Dan McClellan about some Bible study scholarship consensus, like what the scholarly consensus is about something.
All right, let's see it.
So, in Genesis, when God has planted the Garden of Eden and the tree of knowledge and the tree of life, and he says to Adam, don't eat from the tree of knowledge, because when you eat from the tree, you shall surely die. But then Adam eats from the tree, and then he doesn't die. So does that mean specifically that God was lying to him? Or is this considered to be God making a prophecy that if he eats from the tree, then the consequence that'll eventually follow is that Adam will die? Secondarily, am I correct in sort of feeling like it seems like part of the reason why God gets so upset at Adam for eating from the tree is that it makes Adam kind of a threat to God's power, in the sense that God says he has now become too much like us, and if he becomes immortal on top of having this knowledge, then somehow that seems to be a threat to God, which is why God sends him away and curses them so badly for having violated his commandment. Anyway, that's all I wanted to know. My cat says thank you in advance, by the way.
So the Hebrew of this statement is what's called a paronomastic infinitive, and it is the use of the verbal root for to die in the infinitive absolute and then in a finite form. And this occurs dozens of times in the Hebrew Bible, and every single time it refers to literal death. So this has to refer to literal death. Now, there is a passive use of the finite form of the verb that refers to condemnations to death, to a death sentence, but that's not what we have here. We have the active form, which means that Adam will die within a roughly 24-hour period from when he eats of the tree. So this is not a threat that Adam will become mortal. All the indications from the narrative are that Adam and Eve were mortal the entire time. This is a threat that the consequence of eating this fruit will be Adam's death within roughly a 24-hour period, and that does not happen. Now, there are scholars like James Barr and others who will argue that it is not so much God lying as God just changing their mind and being merciful, deciding that they want Adam and Eve to live so that they can procreate and so that humanity can live. And obviously that's kind of necessary, since this is an etiology for the origin of humanity to begin with. But it could be characterized as a lie on the part of God. God is represented in the three main narrative arcs of the primeval history as being an antagonist to humanity. Every time they get close to achieving deity, God is there to slap them back down and make sure they don't do it. That happens in the Garden of Eden. It happens with the story of the B'nai Elohim, the children of God, in Genesis 6, where they are going to mate their way into divinity. And then it happens with the story of the Tower of Babel, where the God says, let us go down and confuse their language, otherwise they'll build a tower that will reach to heaven, and they will make a name for themselves that will never die, and that would roughly correspond to their concept of immortality. And so God is there to prevent them from achieving a measure of divinity in all three cases. And so the notion that God would threaten Adam with death and that would be a lie that God was just using to try to prevent Adam from partaking of the fruit certainly makes sense to me and to other scholars, but there is disagreement about that. And the fit for this video has been The Reign of the Supermen.